How you doing, YouTube? Matt Massive Beer Reviews back with yet another review. Something a little bit different, though. We're going to be reviewing this beer, which I'm going to butcher. It's a Smisje. It's the Calva Reserva. This is a Smisje their Kirst, which I've reviewed before. Ale brewed with coriander and aged in Calvados casks. Yes, I have had this beer before, quite a while ago, but I also just reviewed it. I reviewed it about a month ago. I haven't posted that review yet. Lo and behold, I was at a completely different bottle shop. This is an old beer. I have no idea how old it is. It's old and dusty. Just how the label's all torn and tattered and fucked up. This beer has to be. There's no way to discern the age. I can't figure it out, but this has to be aged. Anyway, I was, maybe 100 miles away from where I picked this up off a shelf at a different bottle shop when I did that first review about a month ago. And I opened it and I wasn't blown away. And it was this kind of oxidized, and the coriander was way too big, and it just didn't do me proper. So I was like, okay, whatever. That happens in beer reviews. But then I'm like 100 miles away, and I see this on the shelf, and it says on top, Calva BB. So I'm assuming this is the same batch, same year maybe. It's still in Jersey, I don't know. The labels look equally as tattered and fucked up. So I figured I'd do this. I figured I'd pick it up again and re-review it and see if there's a different impact. Like I said, the other one went into it with high hopes. I love Calvados cask. I love the original Kirst. But I figured I'd re-review it and see what happens. If it's the same beer, then I'll just post one of those reviews. Probably the previous one, so this one kind of doesn't make sense. But I'm curious to see if it's different. Just as a kind of experiment to go into beers being like, okay, same beer, probably the same batch, two different locations. Can that affect the beer? Can that change what you taste in a beer? Let's find out. So, let's just crack in this sucker. Label-wise, I love it. It's like super ghetto, like dot matrix printer. It's all fucked up. It's kind of tattered and ripping off. I dig it. I love the label. So, oh man, there's a big... Yeah, this definitely has a decent amount of age on it too, because there's a big, huge, filthy merc ring on this fucker. So yeah, let's keep a little bit of that yeastiness, but I don't know if you can actually see the kind of ring right there from sitting around for years. So, this huge Calvados cask just punched me in the face. Big apple brandy from a distance. Kind of a rocky head on it. Straight, legit khaki in color. And she's got a soft taste to her. Yeah, very Doppelbockish, very Belgian double-ish kind of color to it. Spiced beer kind of color to it. So yeah, she looks like what I remember. Let's see if I can get a nose on her. Oh, that smells fucking awesome. That smells fucking awesome. I mean, you definitely get that coriander in there, and there's definitely some oxidation going on, a bit of wet paper. But other than that Calvados cask rings. There's a big, huge apple brandy component in there. It's rich, it's deep, it's fucking sexy as fuck. And then you get into the beer portion of the show, where there's this really just kind of like brandy, Calvados brandy soaked raisin component in it, to where you get these big, huge raisin. It's almost like it's like it's not a OG, purple, grape kind of raisin, but it's not a golden raisin. It's not the white grape. It's not the purple grape. Somewhere in between kind of raisin vibe, but it definitely has that kind of soaked in a brandy kind of effect to it. Yeah, she smells beautiful. Sweet, delicious. That coriander is definitely there. So I remember knocking that. The first one of these I reviewed, it came off, but it was more of a tasting, coming off drier, a little bit too aggressive. And then it married with that oxidation to where it was really dry and kind of palate smacking. This one comes off much sweeter, much more mature, much more robust. This is fun. Let's dive in. Cheers. Yeah, that's delicious. That's delicious. I mean, that coriander is still big. But the apple brandy barrel in this, combined with that sweet Belgian component, just kind of tempers it, pushes it back enough to where it doesn't become something that overtakes the beer. There's a decent amount of oak in there. and there is that kind of oxidative component to it. But this has a softer mouthfeel. It's still a little bit kind of, I don't want to say harsh on the carbonation, but it's a little bit sprightly, kind of spritzy in the carbonation, but there's an additional softness to it that I don't remember that previous bottle having. The mouthfeel has a bit more density to it, and just the beer as a whole just comes off way more rich and deep and kind of aged, and having this kind of soft raisinette effect that kind of borders between that, you know, orange California, like dark raisin and a yellow golden kind of raisin, somewhere right between there with that apple brandy shining through. Yeah, this is a tasty beer. Way different than the other one I had. This is why I did this, because I was like, I'm curious. Because it was, you know, it's not a super expensive. It's $7 for a bottle. I mean, that's, you know, a lot of people be like, holy fuck, $7 for a bottle? $7 for a Belgian brandy barrel aged beer. I'm not gonna really blink an eye at that. But I thought it'd be a fun experiment to do. Sure, and even I'll admit it that my mindset right now changes. And the environment you're in changes, so that in of itself can actually change your review sometimes. But I don't think to this effect. I don't think the beer is the same, and I'm just that different right now to where I think this beer is coming off that much different. It could be slight variances with those kind of things. As a whole, though, this beer is just drinking infinitely better than its other version that I had. Very fun, very cool. Love the brandy barrel. Love the beer itself. Still kind of dial back that coriander a little bit. That's just me. And it's got a almost welcoming amount of oxidation. Probably a little bit too much. The paper's a little bit too soft, a little bit too dry, but a little bit of that oxidation kind of opens the beer up a little bit, adds a little character to it, and I think it works out pretty damn well. Yeah, I dig this. I think it's fun. It's tasty. I dig it. So that was a fun little experiment to do. What I'll do now is I will take both of these and I will post them at the same time. Maybe I'll even give them the same number and do like a -A, -B kind of thing. And it's just a fun experiment to do. Listen, you know, I'm just about 2,000 beer reviews deep now. And I'm not going to sit here and say that, you know, a beer can be different from time to time. Environments change, people change, palate change, conditions change, how it's stored can change. So when you watch me or you watch anybody else out there in the beer YouTubing world do these reviews, there is a lot of good information to be had, but there's also take it with a bit of grain of salt, because a lot of times the beers we get, we don't know how they were taken care of unless we got them from the source and treated them, you know, took care of them ourselves. There's no way to know where they've been and what happened to them. And that's kind of why I kind of got a little kind of bug up my butt, I guess you would say, to do this one. So, you know, take this for what it's worth. The other place, I don't know, could have been sitting in a heater, above a heater for 5 years. This one could have been sitting in the shadows, or vice versa. I don't know. But all I know is that this beer is pretty damn excellent, and the other one of this that I'm almost positive, I wish I had still had the bottle in the cap here, is from the same batch and variant, but it just did not land for me at all in any way whatsoever. So it'll be a fun little side-by-side, at least a month apart, that you guys can watch and kind of check into. Anyway, let's cut to the chase. Is it one of the better barrel-aged Belgian beers that I've had as late? Yeah, actually. I've had better, but I've definitely had worse. But it's definitely worthy of being in a conversation, eking towards the top, not at the top. Value and availability, like I said, $7, picked it up off a shelf. But, you know, your mileage may vary depending on where you pick it up, and leave you with, if you like what way you like this beer, if you like Calvados cask, if you like Belgian darks. It's not even a Belgian dark, it's like more like a winter warmer, like spice beer. And more importantly, if you like coriander, because it definitely is a little heavy-handed on the coriander, but in this iteration, this version, this bottle that I have here compared to the other one, that coriander doesn't get in the way. So yeah, if you dig those things, you'll dig this. Do that sometime. Pick up an old beer and try to find the same version somewhere else and try them side by side. It's a fun experiment to do. Anyway, there you go. Another review in the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive Beers if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff. Beer Massive if you want to check me out doing the whole podcasting thing. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully enjoying a nice little aged Belgian right now. And hopefully see you next time. Cheers.